Winter, spring, summer, fall, seasons change, we still keep it together.
Hey, Beverly Hills 90210 fans! Are you ready to dive deep, episode by episode, storyline by storyline, character by character, as we break down the making of your favorite zip code? With your hosts, Charles Rosen.
Did I say that?
Harry
This
Mullen.
heinous thing about the real person, and we're going, what? We're getting rid of this guy.
Pete Ferrero.
I'm feeling wonderful. Kathleen looks TV crush-worthy.
Like so many special guests. And all your questions. Live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Oh, yeah.
Everybody dance now.
Well, here we are again on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. This is really exciting. We're covering 3 episodes and a storyline and a whole bunch of other stuff. But Larry, how's everything going on what's going on, man? How are you been?
Well, I'm in La Quinta, California, with my wife Dee and the dog Yoshi, and also my grand dog Mac. And we're just trying to hang out in the desert and see what that feels like for about a month. Chuck's going to join us next week, and we'll do a show live from the desert. We're going to do Sweating It Out. We're going to have some pre-recorded video recreations of the Brandon Dillon stuff. I haven't quite figured out, but Chuck liked the idea. And we're going to go on a hike anyways, which is kind of the outdoorsy feel of that episode. You remember, everyone remembers that episode. And
Sweating It Out.
We get Chip Johannesson with us. I'm going to wait till the end of the week because he's a busy defense attorney for the city of Los Angeles, believe it or not. He gave up show business for the legal profession.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking because he
always
had
wanted to.
He had a really great writing career too. I mean, we're talking about Chip because Chip might join us next week on Sweating It Out. But I mean, after 90210, he went on and did a lot of great things too. So it's cool to see that he went and totally did something different. Was he a lawyer at some point in his life?
No, he went back when he was executive producer of Homeland. He was, I think, on the summers, he was going to law school, catching up to law school, and then doing what he wanted to do. He'd always been involved in stopping the death penalty and death penalty cases, just helping out with that. It was just a passion of his. So that'd be fun.
This is really exciting this week because this week we're here and we're covering 3 episodes from season 7. And we were talking, we did a Patreon watch along, and we've been talking a bunch about season 7. And you discovered that you're into it. You're into season 7.
Yeah, a lot of it I hadn't seen in 25 years, like the Disappearing Act and Pledging My Love. I had not seen, and I just was thrilled seeing them. I have to say I was very proud of them, and also, I mean, in Pledging My Love, I dare you not to cry in that thing. It's just a phenomenal episode, written by my dear friend Phil Sabbath, who I do want to talk about in length at one point.
Yeah. And we're going to have Michael Stoyanov with us here in a second. Fans will know him from Blossom or from 90210. And we got into a whole conversation. We're going to have that in a minute. But I want to talk about some of the other things that we ran into before we get to Michael.
So many other good plots in this. I mean, it's just packed. You got to, first of all, Valerie just looks sensational in this. We gave her a plot with a married man, an older married man plot that she thinks she's using, and he thinks he's using her. And of course, he made a big mistake because she's a lot more clever and devious than he could ever assume to be. So we've been watching this play out.
We hope one day that we will get Joey Gian to convince him to come on and talk about this, because there's a lot of great stuff. In one of the episodes, I think it's Pledging, or is it Disappearing Act? One of the episodes, he gets the phone call in the car when he's with the family.
It's great. It's Disappearing Act. Yeah. It's like he asks, "Oh yeah, hi mom." It's like totally. You got to watch these episodes. That was particularly wonderful. And of course, in Pledging My Love, he sets Valerie up with her little love nest, and sees how that plays out. But she's got her eye on the prize. I mean, this was a fun storyline for her, I thought. And I thought there's some actual pretty good chemistry between them, judging by the
lovely
kiss in Pledging My Love. There's a very good kiss in that.
Also, in Pledging My Love, in that little storyline, Brandon is aware that something is amiss because Kenny,
he knows.
It's so embarrassing for Kenny Bannerman, but he shows up at the front door for her to sign papers.
Oh yeah, sure, like the accountant. Brendan goes, yeah, like the accountants make house calls, and when you see him in that scene, he's like his shirt is out. He looks like he was beat up, And of course, Val, he
Val
says,
no
well,
shows.
Valerie, come down, and Valerie doesn't come down and see him. So I mean, he looks like a total putz in
Douche. Yeah, that's some good stuff.
It's pretty cool to see that one also, that storyline, and then we have David, starting in season 7. He's hoping he doesn't have to finish college. He's got a career as a music video director, and he gets dropped by the label and lies to his father that he's still in college, as classically as a lot of people have done. Yes. And of all people, Donna's going to be the one to kind of clue Mel in. She rats him out to let for the good of David. But meanwhile, we start seeing a lot of the mood swings, a lot of the bipolarisms that are going to strike David, as inherited from his mother, which we did a lot of work in the last 2 seasons about his mother falling off the edge of the grid and everything. And so that's kind of fun to see that starting.
And then interesting too about David.
Stories that are fun. What?
About David, I want to ask you that at the start of season 7, him and Mark Reese have a house together.
Right. You know why? Because we have to shoot pages there. We're not going to get pages just from Mark. So we need David with Mark. Now we can get some pages. Again,
so you have a house, but then he leaves the house very quickly.
Because we got rid of Mark.
Poor house.
I mean that happens.
The poor real estate on that deal,
Yeah, I mean, we had, we did some exterior shooting there. That was in the Hollywood Hills, as I remember. And we do a big pool party, and we have that's other episodes too, where there's a fire in the hills. That's
right. All this stuff is happening at the house.
Of course. Oh yeah. That's a lot of fun. Housewarming, the episode is.
Yeah,
we burned the house down. Yeah.
So not only did Mark Reese or the Dalton James firing affect the show, but also the house rental in the Hollywood Hills in case there was another thing coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the house isn't destroyed in the fire. I think it's closed.
It's closed. Yeah, plot. That's where she sees the deer.
The plot where she sees the deer, and she has a little storyline with the fireman played by absolutely handsome actor. I can't think of his name. Cliff is the fireman. And his name
something like that.
Yeah, no, Cliff is the fireman. I can't remember the actor's name.
Gregory something.
Oh yeah, he's a big soap star today.
Yeah,
we should try to
almost. We tried. He was open to coming on. He was going through a lot of family stuff at the time, so I'll reach back around and hit him up. Yeah. The other standalone thing, there's a great Steve and Claire thing. Well, it's a Steve thing, really. It's Steve streaks.
But it affects everybody because it affects Brandon. It affects Tracy Galeon. I'm looking forward to talking to Jill Novick in a bit.
That's right.
Also, we have to make sure everyone knows Jill's coming on.
That's right. Jill Novick, because
G comes in. Her character, Tracy Galeon, is introduced in the episode Disappearing Act for the first time, and she just steals the show. She becomes the comedy in this show, getting drunk as a news anchor. It was pretty funny. And
so she'll be with us in a little bit.
Alone Steve episode of The Streak, really, I hadn't remembered it being so funny. Has a good gag in it, and it really affects everybody. And it's kind of like a good culmination of Steve pranks that go awry. And I was really delighted with that too.
And the thing is interesting too, because the best thing about Claire is that her dad is the chancellor. Well, it's not the best thing about her, but one of the great things to tie-ins is that anything that Steve does is always going to affect their relationship because her father is the chancellor.
Yeah, I mean, that was classic. So we put him right in the middle of that thing,
And it's like Mark Reese and Brandon get into an argument a little bit about the tape.
Yeah, about the journal. Because again, we got everyone involved in this little plot because Brandon has, an ethical dilemma. He has to give the tape over, which is going to incriminate his best friend. And even though, you probably shouldn't, he shouldn't let that get in the way, but he does. And then, of course, when you watch the episode, you'll see the character Tracy Galeon has a solution.
So we'll talk to her about that.
And everyone's relieved. But yeah, that's great fun. And then Disappearing Act. Well, we're going to talk shortly with Michael, but that this also back to college. These are the early part. These were September episodes. This season premiered actually in the middle of August, I think. I checked the air dates. So these were really early September episodes, and I mean they were. It was fun revisiting them because they're really strong.
Yeah, I mean, all the little subplots happening. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I loved the stuff with Mel and David, Mel and David.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
Mel pulls his support out from David after Donna blows the whistle on him, and yeah, he's got to make it for himself. And of course, he gets bailed out when his grandfather dies a couple of shows later. But
yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the AIDS storyline, and obviously we're going to talk about it with Michael in a second here. We've said a bunch of stuff about it, and I'm sure you'll say more of this when Michael's with us. But I'm curious, looking back on this, and you were talking about your friend Phil. This is probably a good time to set this up and talk about your friend Phil that this came from, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone, when you get into these seasons, you really need someone you can depend on, and that person for me was Phil Savick. And I had brought him down from Vancouver, Canada. He had been my writing and acting and business partner since 1971. We were kind of like a doppelganger. I mean, in a way, because we were very much alike, and we wrote together and acted together. And when I knew I was going into season 7, and a lot of things were in trouble or fracturing that year, I needed someone to depend on. Like Phil had done an episode or two the year before, but he had never been on staff, and he didn't really like to go to Hollywood. He was kind of a hippie to the end. And I got him to come down, and he came down, and he wrote some of the best episodes we had that season. He also wrote, besides Pledge of My Love, which is immaculate, he wrote With This Ring, which is one of the favorites of all time for the fans. It's got the double part with Jason playing the jeweler and the ring, and it's wonderfully romantic. And he just had a lot of soul, and he had a lot of a good Jewish quality too. So I had forgotten that Pledging My Love actually is played against the Jewish High Holy Days. That's right. And it gives it some resonance, and it seems to use the best of some of those wise, moments and deep moments within our little drama.
So here's your buddy. Let's see. Here's Phil.
There's Phil. That's when we had our theater in Toronto. If you see us together, we both had that very similar. And there's Phil actually holding a joint for me on my wedding day. It's good of him. He looks like he could do. And that's Phil as a serious filmmaker in Canada. He did some wonderful projects up there when I lured him down. And that's Phil and I in a show in 1971 where we about hitchhiking.
Amazing. So a really good writing partner. Okay, so listen, man, I want to bring on our friend Jill.
Oh, fabulous.
So we were just talking about, hey, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
How are you? Our good
Jill in Albuquerque,
roving reporter.
Yep.
It's so much fun to look at these episodes again and think about you approaching them and stuff, because we got to see your entrance in Disappearing Act, and then had some fun watching the second episode of you in Pledging, where you kind of bailed Brandon out and stuff, and just the work is really great. And I was saying, we met with Michael Stoyanov, but I was thinking about the whole episode, and you really carried the comedy weight in that first episode. Like you did the whole drunk thing spectacularly.
Well, thank you.
Well, I want to ask you though, coming into the world of 90210, we've obviously interviewed a bunch of times. For those that don't know who this is, it's Jill Novick, who was Tracy on the show in season 7. And you've talked about walking into that universe and being a fan and what that was like for you. But one of the first things when we were watching this was this scene where you're really nervous about being the newscaster, the anchor, and they get you drunk. Do you recall any of this and shooting some of this?
I do. I recall very little, but I do. My memory tells me that was actually the very first scene that I ever shot.
Oh, gosh.
Being in that bar. Yeah. And who directed that episode?
The first episode,
we said it
in Disappearing Out with David Semmel.
David Semmel, exactly. Okay, so that was my memory, was that it was David Semmel.
Good director, really,
is a good director, and I thought was really cute. I remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was young.
Well, weren't we all?
Right.
But so I remember being at the bar. I think I was nervous because it was my first episode. I was nervous because I had to be drunk. And I had only done that one time before. And it was in a Matlock episode with David Gale. Actually, that's how I know David.
Our friend David Gale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
and there was other people like Jerry Lynn Ryan was in it and Kurt. Anyway, so that was the only time, but she and I got to kind of play off of each other. But in this one, I was drunk and the two guys were not really,
No.
Right.
So, and it was my first thing. So I remember being very nervous. I also remember not being confident about, playing drunk, but also the comedy of it, because I had to, my head falls on the bar.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember being really nervous that I was going to hit my head on the bar and hurt myself. And I don't remember if I actually did that or not. Like, I probably blocked it out, but.
It's really good though. I mean, you nailed that. And you come into this world. Why don't you tell us again about what that was like for you?
Oh gosh. It was very nerve-wracking. I think I said this the first time we spoke. It was like the first day of school, and not knowing anybody, but kind of knowing them because I watched the show, and so it was. That's why it was so nerve-wracking. I knew everybody, but I didn't. Right. So, and
you have a perception maybe of who they are based on, what Kelly did to Brenda.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to separate their characters from real life sometimes. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think I told that story about when I first met Jason in the office, and I was just like, like I was so nervous because also, if you think about it, when I first auditioned for the show, I guess I was in my mid-20s, and then when I got the show, I was 29, 30, somewhere in there. And so, yes, I was still at that point where I thought all the boys were so cute. And, I was just like, over all the boys. So, yeah.
And do you remember anything about working with Dalton James?
I was going to ask that too, Pete. That's great.
Yeah.
We're curious.
Because it's so fascinating. Yeah.
And I can't really say what I remember.
Oh, please do. Please do tell us. He will not come on the show, and it's such a fascinating time period for all of us.
If it's really salacious, people just cut it out.
Well, yeah, it had to do, I think, with Jenny and something. Like, I don't know. Forget it. I don't know.
No. You have to tell. We'll cut it if it's too great. If it's not,
I think it had something to do with maybe she didn't like kissing him or something.
Wow, already that was happening.
I think so.
Okay.
Well,
no, this is a big thing here on the show.
It wasn't my first episode that I didn't know that, obviously, in the beginning.
No, that's later on. You wouldn't have known that yet.
That's later on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's later on.
He was nice. I honestly don't really remember much about him.
It's a fascinating piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think, yeah. We're trying to piece it together. A little forensic science.
It's like it's turning into an episode of Matlock.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't really remember anything else.
Matlock was Andy Griffin?
Andy Griffith, yeah.
Oh, great. Wow. Yeah. What fun.
Tell me about doing a Matlock, which is like not what we're here to talk about at all.
I know, right?
But I'm always fascinated with those types of shows. Matlock, Perry Mason, Columbo. I'm always curious about what it is to be in those universes.
It was a blast. We shot in Wilmington, North Carolina. And like I said, there were a whole group of us young people on the show. Andy was a little bit of a dirty old man.
Okay.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. He was a little bit. He kind of, because, Jerry Lynn and I were walking around in bikinis all the time. And so I think it was one of those situations where you could kind of see the eyes going down,
Yes. Dear Lord.
Yeah. But it was a blast. The thing I remember the most about that was the humidity and my hair just being like, and I had bangs and they were like, yeah.
Well, I just want to say one thing, because the episode you're introduced in has such a heavy AIDS storyline in it, where there's a cut in it, and blood gets on Kelly Taylor, and everyone's nightmare about being near someone with AIDS, it plays out. So it was such a relief to have you go for it with the drunk thing. I just want to make sure you knew how thankful we were about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the other thing, we watched the second episode, which was Pledging My Love, which it's kind of interesting. You know, we set up your character, which is, you know, which you dive into, and, you know, we get a sense of, you know, you're from Okie family and stuff. I had forgotten that whole thing.
Right.
And then you've got this magnet trick, which you pull out this big magnet. At the end, you demagnetize the incriminating tape of Steve Sanders running naked through the campus in front of the chancellor.
Okay, no memory of that. I have no memory.
It's great. It's
Oh,
really
it's brilliant.
great. It's very subtle, and it's believable because of your background and the way you kind of felt, you know, that you really came from farm country, ranch country, and, you know, you kind of were not a Beverly Hills girl and stuff, so you might know stuff like this, you know, kind of odd stuff.
One thing, Larry, I want to ask you about. We were talking.
I don't know
about
if Phil made that up, by the way. That whole magnet thing. That sounds like something Phil made.
I know. I think that is a thing. I remember that in TV, TV film VHS tape class.
He must have remembered too.
I do know, because I remember in VHS class that was like you can use a magnet to erase the tape. I remember that being. I don't know if I remember that from class or if I remember that from 90210. So I'll have to. No, I want to ask you though, Larry. Like at that point though, when Brandon's thanking, you know, he wants to thank her. She gives him a little kiss.
Yes, the first moment of the romance starts in the Pledge of My Love. Right. And again, it's all Brandon's going, well, I shouldn't get involved in a workplace romance.
Right.
Because last season he did get, and he got totally dumped. But, you know, you do it again. That's what fools in love do.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, you guys. I don't even remember that.
You need to watch that episode. You do some great work in it. You know, again, you didn't have to carry the comedy stuff there because you're just basically doing the new stuff, and you're a very credible anchor. You know, stay classy, San Diego kind of style. And no, you did, yeah. I mean, because you had never done any broadcasting like that, have you? Have played anything?
No, I didn't, and I'm sure I said this before, but that was the hardest part of that job.
I'm sure. I would think so.
It really, you know, talking into the camera, you never do that. Right.
Yeah.
Unless you're. Yeah. So I remember that being really hard.
I'm curious. You're teaching acting now, right? That's what's happening. What was the subject of today's class? I'm just curious.
Oh gosh. So I teach theater art. I teach drama, theater production, stagecraft, which is not really my thing, but I teach it anyway. And then I am directing. We're doing Grease. So
amazing.
Well,
so at the
people
end
love
of
that. They'll remember for years.
Yeah. So then I have rehearsal after school for like 3 hours after teaching all day. So it's a long day for me. I get up at 5:30. I'm at school by 6:45. I teach classes. You know, we do something different in pretty much in every class. Like in my stagecraft classes, we're sort of doing the build. So we're making props,
yeah,
painting, we're doing all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. That's really good stuff. All right, Jill, thank you so much for your time here. It's always wonderful to see you. You look wonderful.
Did you send her the episodes, Pete?
I will send them to her again so that she can.
I want her to see Pledge of My Love too.
She's just always so lovely. All right, let's go to now our interview with Michael Stoyanov. I think I'm saying that right this whole time.
Stoyanov.
Either way, however you want to interpret it,
Michael
watching
Stoyanov.
at home. He was from Blossom, but he did an incredible job here as Jimmy Gold on in this 3 episode or 3 or 4 episodes.
It was 3 episodes.
3 episode arc. All right, so let's go to that, and here that is.
Anyway, it's a pleasure to have you here, Michael. We really wanted to talk to you. You know, looking back at these, you got to see the episodes again?
You know what? I got to confess, I am not a huge fan of watching myself. So I didn't. I have pretty solid memories of everything.
Well,
and if you guys want
you
to
know,
jot
this is
I
not.
can't watch myself act. I've never been that guy.
That's fair. Yeah,
that's fair. Well, for those of us who did watch it, I haven't seen it since 1996. I watched all 3 of them. And I swear, if this was another series, you would have had an Emmy nomination. That's how good it was.
So nice of you. It was definitely
from the bottom of my heart. That's where it was. And you know, again, for as executive producer at that time, and also the showrunner, you know, it was a dangerous storyline for us to do.
Absolutely.
And you know, and people questioned it and stuff. And you know, at the time, I don't think it was as embraced as the fans have after the fact. I mean, I see it's really a favorite of that season, that whole storyline. So, I mean, it really has worn well, and really, it made me very proud of that we were trying that. And
thank you for having me. I agree, an absolutely groundbreaking and important role. And I think, it was at the time. like well out of the 90210 wheelhouse. And I think as time's gone by, it's garnered more esteem. But it was, at the time, I thought, just pitch perfect, and working with Jenny was amazing. She was inspirational and saved the day on a few occasions, I'd say, and we'll get into that at a more opportune time down the road, because towards the end, it's about, like, very quickly, my death scene. Like, it was one of my only, I think, on-screen sort of death scenes, like stricken in the hospital on the way, like literally to Heaven's Gate type scene. And they had like the full, like accurate, like sort of Kaposi sarcoma, like zombified. And I came out and Jenny like took one look at me and was like, "What? No, clean him up. Like, he's dying, but like, let's remember the tone of the show. Like, we can't, no, this is wrong." And she really, I think that was a smart call, because it may have been startlingly accurate, but it was to the point of being distracting. And I think she was right to have that all pulled back.
Wow, I had no idea. No one made that call to me.
Wait, normally that would be a Larry Mullen call, though.
Yeah,
that's a Larry
what's
Mullen
interesting,
call.
because we do that in the there's a when Jenny, and I'm not sure if it's in this episode, I think it is, no, it's in Disappearing Act, where this Jenny has like a dream, which seems very real, because we actually have an establishing shot, which dreams never have. and she opens her thing up and she's got all the blotches, and it's so real, but it's too much. And so her instincts were really, really good there. Because you were dead enough. You acted dead, as Spencer Tracy would say. I'm going to act unshaven. Don't worry about it.
It's true. It's true. I mean, my acting has been called flat and lifeless on many occasions, so it's finally apropos. So,
hey, Pete, we should take this episode, the 3 episodes in sequence, so we can kind of get it.
Sure.
All.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Jump ahead to this story, but
it's cool. I want to start, Larry. I mean, so we have the AIDS storyline. We've been talking about it a little bit here, and how do you find Michael? I mean, were you aware of him from Blossom? Is that
of
how?
course, yeah. I mean, that was a show we knew about. Look, this was a storyline that that Mr. Spelling approved, because he had also just gotten Emmys for, and the band played on. So it was a subject that he was close to, even though it was risky. Because again, this was an 8 o'clock show. Don't forget, in Fox, the 8 o'clock shows really were 9 o'clock shows, but because they only programmed to 8 to 10. And Phil Savith, who is no longer with us, was a big part of this storyline. And we were doing 32 a year. We're always looking something for our actors that's going to give them something, a chance to do the same kind of stuff they were doing already in the Movies of the Week stuff that they were doing. And and Jenny didn't have a boyfriend then, so we were treading water. So we
You mean the Carrot Kelly?
So we just thought we could do something, and at the same time, also educate people a little bit about AIDS and paranoia of AIDS and what all that meant. And we were going to create this character, which I said Phil Savith had a lot to do with Jimmy Gold. All the magic stuff and all that stuff came out of Phil, I'm pretty certain. And when we talked to our casting person, and she said, "Well, who can we get?" I mean, you didn't read for the part, Michael, as I remember, right?
I did. I think.
You think you did? So did you read in Spelling's office, or?
I don't remember that. I think probably at that point in my career, at the very least, I was straight to producers, thankfully,
Yeah, I would think so.
I feel like it definitely, regardless of who was in the room, and I think it was probably a big room, there was also tape, and then perhaps Mr. Spelling took a look, or like, I don't really recall, but I do feel pretty confident that I definitely read for it. And again, that may have been a measure of, it was not like you immediately thought of me for that part in regard to just my physical, like the work I'd been doing prior. And I was never one who minded, like, look, I'll go in and show them that I'm not just whatever sort of cookie cutter mold they think I fit into. Like, I'm an actor, I can do this. And I mean, I'd cut all my hair off and I'd lost a bunch of weight. So it was fortuitous. I came in looking a lot more like Jimmy Gold should or would look than if you had just seen like the last season of Blossom, for instance. You know what I mean? So I think it all just sort of worked out well.
It certainly did for us. I know we jumped at it. I mean, I don't remember you reading for it, I have to say, and I'm not sure we would have been in Spelling's office because he only traditionally read for like things that were going to be longer arcs. We would bring him in, but this was a special part, so you might have. I mean, I don't know, but anyway, it was our good fortune, and so
mine as well.
And we introduced the character in Made for Life. Pete, what first?
I think it was Made for Life. But I'm
Made for
curious
Life.
for you, Michael. You were on Blossom, and this is post Blossom, right?
I had left Blossom the last season to go write for Conan O'Brien in New York, and then that turned into another job writing on the very short-lived Dana Carvey show. So I had spent a year pretty much not acting, and then I came back to LA sort of re-energized and interested in stretching as an actor and really just getting in front of the camera again. And so this came up almost right away. And my representation at the time was like, we really should try and go get this. And so it was really exciting.
What about developing Jimmy? I mean, you get this script. When you get it and you got the part and that's all going to happen. Talk to me about what your process is like in finding him and creating this character.
Well, I'm sort of an organic type. I've always been like real dependent on, like I want to understand the character and I want to understand the circumstances. But then it's like, I don't even in auditions, I never have been a fan of locking in. Like I needed to get there and like, well, what's Jenny thinking? What's she going to be doing? Every scene I have is with her, and like therefore every reaction I'm going to have is going to be based off what she, I say something, she says something that provokes me to say something, and then that's to me how it works. So like, in regard to this, like obviously at that point and going forward, like I knew people who had passed and like had it, and like. I was definitely aware of like the situation. And in terms of the magic, that may have been the most sort of like, how am I gonna like at least look like I might be competent at like should I, I didn't want to do like, it's like every actor gets a part as a magician. They learn how to like flip a quarter around on their fingers. And it's like, maybe just sort of like project a confidence in the ability to do that sort of thing. And it wasn't heavy on like, he wasn't constantly like pulling handkerchiefs or like producing pigeons. So like, it was an important aspect, but not like.
It was toned down, thankfully.
Exactly.
You weren't quite Penn and Teller
really
yet.
well. I thought you sold it. I actually thought perhaps you did have a little bit of prestidigitation in your in your past. So I'm really curious. So if we first meet Jimmy at the Friendship House Hospice, which, again, for us, Jenny, the Kelly Taylor character being a psychology major, it was just again, expanding as they move into adulthood, what are these people going to do?
Right.
Which was in our mind. Now, were these other people there HIV positive?
My memory is that there were some sick people there.
That was my memory too, because Paul Wagner, I don't know if you ever got to meet Paul Wagner, our on-set producer.
I'm absolutely sure that happened.
He was a great man, and his boyfriend had died of AIDS, so it was a really important storyline to him. And I'm sure when he put this together, that was part of the thing, that we were going to really use HIV positive actors.
Right.
And because when you walk into that place there, it feels pretty real.
Sure. And I just real quick, that when the question before, this was definitely the kind of role where. Like I was a little bit scared, like when I was excited to get it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I got it now. Now I have to do this. Like, can I, like, this is a ways from like a very special Blossom, where, like, something less serious to say the least. So like, it was, and then, walking in that first day, cause our first scenes were in that hospice. I was like, oh my God, this is super duper real. I don't know if that's an actual film term, but it felt super duper real to me. And again, I think that helped the work, and it all just played really, really well because it was real.
Yeah, it felt like God's waiting room, as they say.
I remember the episode of Blossom that you did where your character, this is not about Blossom, but your character falls off the wagon, right? Is that the way they say that? Off the wagon or on? Yes.
I think so. It's a Seinfeld, but yeah,
Right,
I think it's off the wagon. If you're off the wagon, yeah, you have relapsed, or you've had a night.
And that was some pretty serious stuff. So you did do some serious stuff on Blossom, right?
Yeah, but a lot of that honestly occurred. It was like cut to, and then like talked about like it had happened. Like you didn't get to actually play the scene. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And my memory of that episode actually was like, Anthony contemplating the bottle of whiskey in his hand, and then regretfully takes a long pull, cut to. You know what I mean? So it's like, it was not like, this was like the nitty gritty. And again, 90210 was a 1 hour, and like Blossom was a half hour. Like there were just tone differences that like made this, this was single camera, a film back in those days, like a real Panaflex like film camera, like versus we were shooting on video in front of it was a 1-act play basically every week in Blossom. So there were definite differences, and this was a real step up in terms of like seriousness for me as an actor in Hollywood, for sure. And
you're living out on the East Coast writing when you come back to do this. So you are removed from it. Were you staying in the process of acting at all? Training, classes, any of that New York scene?
I was still auditioning while working at Conan, and sort of the end goal at that point in my life, we hoped was like a Kids in the Hall. Like, I was writing comedy, late night comedy in that case, with an eye towards like, hey, me and like 4 of my very talented friends from college, we would love to do a sketch show. Anyone interested? So I was trying to gather like bona fides in that realm. So, because, it's like, yes, you're a comic actor, but you were on a sitcom that was sort of geared for, younger people.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true. But like, that proves I can act. Now look here, I'm writing. Like, so, but no, like I was definitely, and I'll be the first to say I'm a better actor than a writer. Writing is, I have all the respect in the world for the true, like, great writers of the world. And I used to make a joke with my friend Dino and a couple other guys, really, really talented guys. It's like, I can so clearly feel the like Salieri vibe for me. It's like, I look at your writing and it just leaps off the page and like comes to life. And like mine is just laying there. Why? How do you do it? It's like, I'm talented enough to see the brilliance, but I can't replicate it. And so like, yeah, that was a long-winded answer for a.
No, I love that stuff.
I got it.
I'm curious though, real quick. This is not related to 90210. Who was in this Kids of the Hall?
Kids in the Hall?
Yeah, your version of it. Who was?
I went to school with Andy Dick.
Nice.
And my friend Dino Stamatopoulos, who was he and Dan Harmon partnered early in Dan Harmon's career on Community, and he played Starburns on Community. I know he's sort of a wacky kind of guy. And then it would have been a couple people that no one really knew that we were super talented. Scott Adsit, actually, from 30 Rock, and
nice.
Veep, and a bunch of other things.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I went to Columbia College in Chicago, which had a lot of talented people there. A lot of people. So, like, that was sort of where we hoped, like, the core of this, theoretical sketch comedy group would come
Great idea. Really cool. I'd still like to see it.
So I mean, we probably all get together and do that if anyone wants to produce it. So, yeah.
you get out to LA and you get to the set of 90210. What is that experience like? It's a huge, huge show, and you're going to be working a lot with Jenny Garth. And we've had mixed comments about what that first meeting with Jenny Garth has like for certain people. I mean, guys usually have it pretty easy. What was what was it like meeting her and then sort of finding this character together, finding the story together?
Well, in regard to the general feeling, like it was sort of like Blossom wasn't near, I don't think, the cultural phenomenon that 90210 was, but it was sort of in the same era, and like,
sure.
And we, I had this level of success, so like it didn't feel like I wasn't overwhelmed by that. Also, again, due to the nature of the part, I was fairly insular. I essentially only worked with Jenny the entire time, except for the the magic show where I think Ryan and Tiffany.
I think everybody showed up at the magic show.
Yeah, everyone's there. Ian becomes a part of the show too. You do a magic trick.
Ian, who I knew from the gym, of course, but also then but again, I had like one day with those people. Everyone was super nice. Jenny was, again, amazing. And again, I don't want to step on any toes, but I feel like it was late enough in the run. I think, was it season 8?
7.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
7. So she was so smart and such a professional. And like, I'm nothing against the directors, but she probably had more experience. She had a feel for like what was needed. And it was really, really amazing watching her like sort of work with the director, not control the situation, but like be this incredibly helpful, like energy. We should maybe do this, like maybe like, you know what I mean? Like she wasn't taking, I want to be careful not to take away from the people that were directing the show. But at that point, as a major character on this major show that she'd done every episode for 7 years, she was able to see like right away, like this should be like this.
This is how we do 90210, essentially.
Hey, who directed Made for Life? I'm curious. I know Disappearing Act with Dave Semmel, and Pledging My Love with
I feel like
James Darren.
Anson
Williams?
I feel like he's in the mix of one of these.
I don't remember Anson. I would have remembered that because I was I'm old. I'm an old guy.
Happy
I remember
days.
Anson Williams for sure. There was the guy, he directed a ton of 1 Hour. He was an older guy. He was Latino.
Made for Life is Burt Brinker.
Burt Brinkerhoff. I know.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was a spelling, regular.
David Semmel does Disappearing Act, and then Pledging My Love is James Darren.
Really? Who was I thinking of? Maybe it was a DP.
No, maybe. Yeah.
I don't remember because I did 3, but then I was like in 4. Was I in 4 because like previously ons or something?
Maybe. No, you were on a 4th one. Yes, I think that's true.
4.
What was it like working with the HIV actors? Did you have anything to do with them? Or?
Good question.
I mean, my memory is that everyone was super nice, and there wasn't like the great majority, the meat of the character and the scenes and the acting was with Jenny. Right. So I don't really have super strong memories of that, but I feel like now that you're mentioning it, there was at least a couple exchanges, and again, consummate professionals. Everyone really good, everyone well cast, Was there a place even within inside that group that was there, or maybe someone that you said that you had known people that had this and whatnot? Was there a place that you went to for this kind of information about the character, even on set? Where was anybody saying like, oh, well, this is what this feels like, or was there anything of that happen? May have been a question or two, or but again, I think I probably would have been aware to I'm not sure what comfort level there is here for me to be sort of probing someone. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's it almost felt like, is that in my mind, I would have been thinking, is this insensitive to be as an actor, and asking? It's it would almost have been more appropriate somewhere else as a human being to be hey, what are you going through? What,
Yeah, so, sure. Feels exploitative, I guess.
And Larry, for you, you're probably seeing dailies. We've just uncovered some that's for fans, but not for this episode. But we uncovered some dailies from something else. But I'm just curious, when you're seeing the work come back. I mean, do you watch dailies every day to see what's going?
Yeah.
So, what was your thoughts when you saw
stuff? Oh, we just overjoyed. I just thought it was really, it was playing well. I mean, I felt, again, at that point. It's a 7th season. Now, when I'm saying 7 seasons, we were already over 200 episodes almost, because we were doing a lot of episodes. So it's not like today, but they do 10 episodes.
Yeah, you call it a season at 12 is a long season.
And so our actors were fairly bored, okay? But by that point, the stars were kind of worried and bored. They've already into the long time. Are they ever going to work another character? And so we needed to challenge them. And so I remember seeing the dailies and just really being relieved that Jenny was all in on this thing, because otherwise it would have been a disaster. I would have been hearing it from the set, and she's not happy here, and this and that. And
you would have known if she didn't like working with Michael.
Oh yeah, right. Yes, I would have. Yes,
especially in that season.
Yes,
right?
Because no, they, just like she was telling the director, she was telling.
It's like my turn to ask a question. So there were times where it was like,
that season they had to write
with this actor or actress.
Somebody got written off that season.
One more time. I'm not kissing this guy one more time.
An actor got written off that season. Yes.
So going through Made for Life, which a lot of other stuff was happening. We were just introducing Jimmy at that point. But I just thought we really delivered him. We delivered him well. We had this special kind of quality to him, which Michael really added to him. Like I said, he looked like a bit of a magician, and he just had this sardonic, kind of whistling past the graveyard, in the lines. But you really made them sing. And looking back at it, because again, I did look at it, and I hadn't seen it like in 25 years. And I just went, this seems so contemporary, this story. I mean, I kind of felt like, wow, we really did that. And I got no credit for it. All I got was shit on. So it's interesting, because again, my experience, especially after Disappearing Act, really was not great, but the work is great.
Well, so what Larry's talking about is he was the EP, and on the day of your magic show is when he realized that he might not be, that things were not going to be as easy to return as an EP for season 8.
And the act, because they couldn't sign Jason, basically. We've talked about this before in the show.
But that is an interesting perspective, though, because even something you said earlier about you had already left a big show, which was, it's in the culture, it's in the 90s culture. I mean, everybody's talking about the 90s now, and your show is in that on that list, Blossom.
I think in no small part because Mayim herself has gone on to become this sort of titan, like especially the last couple of years.
Totally.
Jeopardy.
Success, and now the Jeopardy thing.
And we're all talking about this again. And it's cool. And it's cool because I'm a 90s kid. So it's awesome to see the time period I grew up with being discussed and, talking to all of you. But I'm curious, like when you walked into that set and you kind of alluded to this, like you knew that experience of being in the last season of something that was very huge, and you could probably relate to a Jenny Garth or a Jason Priestley who is in the 7th season of this cultural express.
And you wonder, you think about like, well, back in those days, it's like you couldn't do a movie, you couldn't do anything else, like you wouldn't, the studios, the production company had you locked up, and it's like, oh, I've got this great opportunity to do 2 weeks on they didn't know, like at least at NBC and at Disney. And I think generally at my experience in the business at that time is like, when you're on a series that you have that 2-month period, maybe in your hiatus, you can squeeze in a movie, fine, but you're not going to be let out for anything like in the interim. So I definitely understand what someone like Jason or like Luke or, any of the cast was feeling at that point, because I mean, again, this is my own personal sort of like neuroses, but even if it's not true, you think like, I should be doing like, why am I not getting why is Ed Norton, get me up on Ed Norton stuff. And you're like, you're not Ed Norton, buddy. It's like, well, I don't know. How do we know? Right now I'm stuck on the show. Like, so I totally understand as the years grow on, that aspect. And then of course the like, man, everyone's just gonna like, this is who I'm gonna be now. Like even though a casting director's job is to see beyond that, and believe me, this again is from experience. It's like for years following, it's like, oh, can we send Michael over for this? Oh no, Michael Stoyanov, he's great. We know him. He's not right for this. It's like, how do you? Well, I'm great, but I'm not right for this based on the thing that I did 106 episodes of. Like, I can do. Like the whole point is like I can do more. But so I definitely understand that sort of the Rossification like of an actor's career, for lack of a great archetype like David Schwimmer, super talented guy, having trouble sort of getting away from the iconic role he played.
Yeah, what they all worried about. Hey, which part? I mean, you must get recognized from 90210, I would assume, right?
I get recognized from 90210 for sure. I obviously get recognized from Blossom for the most part. Yeah. I did this really sort of avant-garde, very niche, bizarre horror movie sort of called Freaked with Alex Winter. And Keanu had a like uncredited cameo in it, and like I get like recognized from that, and then some of the more recent stuff Billions is what I'm sort of doing now, and people will. Because it's what I most closely resemble.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen
And I gotta throw in Dark Knight, because even though like I'm the first person killed, I get shot on page 2. I'm wearing a mask. I'm one of the masked bank robbers.
Oh, great.
So, but still, people like they know from looking me up. It's like, oh my God, you were in Dark Knight. It's such a
amazing. Let's talk about the magic show that Jimmy does.
So now we're going to Disappearing Act.
Disappearing Act.
Before we get to that, that thing sets up with Jenny, Michael, with Jimmy Gold,
the finger cutting. That's right.
And he cuts his hand, and we do the fear. The blood comes out. Now we've got the blood of an AIDS victim on our star. On Kelly Taylor.
Right.
Yes. So what is that? What was that like to shoot with her?
That scene?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. The magic show, or
I'm going to get to the magic show in a second. The knife thing was important to you guys, Larry, because you were acknowledging people's fear about AIDS in that moment.
We were trying to educate in an entertaining way, and also we knew people were wrapped up in our characters. And again, challenging Jenny's emotions, as an actress, to be able to go deep on this thing here, and she did a wonderful job.
I think, the tone that was, I recalled like deliberation on that, and again, we weren't the acting. I don't think it wasn't the intimidating part for me. Like honestly, the magic show, which we'll talk about in a minute, I was more scared about like that, having to like fake like I know what I'm doing in a magic show. But like I do remember like an awareness of like let's not make this like Dan Aykroyd doing Julia Child here. Like let's exercise some like moderation and like have the actors play the scariness of it, and not like have it be like a Wes Craven film. Like let's so like I do remember it being like handled really well and really appropriately for again the audience and the time slot and the way it should play. And like I just remember her being great. I remember like being struck by like just sometimes you're in the scene and you're just struck by, you're like, oh my God, this person I'm working with is such a good actor. And like just the fear she registered was like really great and real. And I was like, this is great. This is gonna really work.
I think what's great about it too with the two of you is like she registers fear and you register, I know that she's afraid. You know what I mean? It's really a really beautiful.
It's almost what I feel like as memories serves me here.
Shame, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like she drove that scene, and I think she did an amazing job for sure. She's a great actress. You guys really.
She's incredible. Yeah, I mean, every time she just delivers when she gets these things, and she gets a lot of different things, Jenny. Whether it's a fire or we've talked about that with her too. Go ahead, Larry. You said something.
No, I was just going to say once they started doing movies of the weekend, which were more dramatically, they were always something. I was raped, a teen, whatever the things were. We started trying to push them into more emotional arcs and stuff where we could really let them challenge them. And which they jumped to. We obviously started that first with Luke, and then going through all of them basically.
Right.
The whole cast.
And then so the magic show. Let's talk about this because there's one moment in the magic show which is just incredible where your character starts coughing.
Right.
And I thought, oh my God, this is.
I had forgotten. I thought, oh my God, he's gonna die here. I mean, I had no idea. I have such bad memories of this show, so which is not related to the work, but just my own situation there. That I forgot, and then it's like brilliantly put. I got a frog in my throat. Now, who set these gags up? Was there a special? Must have been an expert.
A magician specialist.
Right? There definitely was, and the close up of the hands. And again, lovely. Two quick things. One is a side story, and one is lovely man, very good with his hands, but like meaty hands, and like hairy. And I was like, how does this? And then this I did a show when I was first in LA called like Hard Time on Planet Earth with Martin. It was like a 6-episode
syndicated show. Yeah, remember.
But yeah, like, and there's a scene where my character like is on the roof of the high school and a flagpole tips over, and like I end up sliding down the flagpole, and they used and they shot it this way with me coming down the pole, but it wasn't me, it was a stuntman. And it wasn't just a stuntman, it was a stuntman with a giant ass. So like the two times like someone has been me, it was like Mr. Meaty Hairy Hands and Mr. Giant Ass. Like I literally had people calling me and being like, "Have you put on weight for the heart?" Like, that wasn't me. Like, but
I don't even know magic.
Back to the context here. He was great, and he was super helpful, and he was patient as hell with someone who clearly was not. I was like, look, just get me to a point where like I can act competent, like I can feel like I can act this, because like I know I'm not good, and we're going to be using you a lot in terms of close-ups. But like,
it's funny too, because it's like you don't really know magic. It's not your strong suit, and you're on stage, and the entire cast of 90210 is.
Again, I was by far the scariest scene for me. Like that was like, I'm really scared that like people are gonna be like, wow, he is not good. He is not a very good actor. What's happening right now? How is he like? And I don't really ever, I'm not, confidence is part of our gig here as actor, as anyone in our field, so like, I don't ever really think like people are going to think I'm not very good. But that scene, I was worried, like, I'm not sure.
You pull it off, man. I mean, it comes.
I do.
I mean, it looks great, man. I bought all of it. Even like when I think at some point in the hospital, you pull like you pull a flower out of Jenny's ear. You do
the waiting room later on.
Little trickery there.
Yeah, she's being tested.
Right.
You show up when she's being tested, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it was nice.
The gags are good. You handled the frog well, or the other hand handled the frog well.
I do remember having to cup a frog, and I remember having to do that bit.
Oh, okay.
Somewhat.
Yeah, there's a part. Was
it like a little plastic frog, or was it? I don't quite remember.
Pretty sure it was. Yeah.
It was like a close up at any point with an actual live frog.
I remember. It wasn't a live frog. Okay.
I don't think it was a live frog. No.
Directors don't like live frogs. I know that. They don't like live fish or live frogs.
The frog wranglers.
We needed a frog wrangler probably. I mean, that was Disappearing Act was, lots of stuff was going on. I mean, obviously a lot of it was with Jenny's fears of, about whether she contacted AIDS. It was possible, even if it was a slight chance. What if she had a cut in her, all those things that people went through at that time. I mean, when you dealt with people who had AIDS, I mean, it was really real, especially in show business, obviously, it started, and I remember in like 85, I was doing a series there, and we started losing our costume and wardrobe people.
Right.
As the first time I really was aware of it, and then it just became, worse and worse for about 10 years.
That's a magic show. Do you get to interact with Tori and all of them? What is that?
On that date?
Yeah.
I remember meeting them all. Everyone was, again, really very nice, cordial. It was all like, again, in my head, like I'm bad with names and like stuff, and like, even when I'm not distracted, but when I'm like working, like just in general, like forget it. And then in this case where, like I said, I was stressed out. I was like trying to like, find the focus somewhere. So I was very distracted, but I do remember everyone, Brian and Tori in particular, and Tiffany, I believe, like being real, and I knew. So like, obviously he's a nice guy, but I don't want to mean to leave him out. But those three, I didn't really know at all. And they were all super nice and super like supportive, and like just really, really good people. Like I think you guys got really lucky with the sort of the quality of the character of the people that you ended up working with, because and again, I'm speaking as an actor about actors. It's not always that way. Like you get there's to say, and again, a lot attitude is the reason a lot of people are successful. You power through with this immense attitude, like that you're great, that you're gonna do it. No one needs to worry. We're gonna work. I'm gonna bring this scene home, and everyone's gonna get paid. Like it's so like it's kind of part and parcel, but it can lead to less than optimal behavior on a set.
Sure.
Fair, like because people have expectations that everyone treat them a certain way, and like, but again, back to the people at hand, didn't get that energy or vibe at all, ever for a second from any of them, especially Jenny, who I worked with like every day for a month. and a half, just about. So like,
Yeah.
really great experience.
Good stuff. And then in the last episode, you were telling us earlier,
Pleasure, My Love, which was written by Phil Savith, dear friend and old cohort. We had our comedy troupe in Canada in the 70s, so he was part of that.
Nice.
And I brought him back. He was
You're like an SCTV.
Absolutely.
Like,
well, before SCTV, I
right,
worked with all those guys, Dan and Gilda. They were all friends of ours. And we were like serious actors, though. They were performing where people drank liquor, like Second City. We go, no, we're not going to do that. We don't do that. We're serious performers. Might have been an error on my part, but and they were great folks. And
like,
I still see Dan.
Have a few drinks and watch some comedy. You can come watch us do Hedda Gabler.
That would be great. Well, we used to do Three Sisters. I think I played Masha. We used to, we were influenced by, because we were in Canada, we were influenced by Monty Python then in the early 70s.
Absolutely.
So we in our troupe, we actually had no women, so we played all the women parts too.
Nice.
Like the kids in the hall.
Exactly. Yes. Same tradition.
So
Pleasure, My Love. I mean, again, this is an episode that's packed and we disguise it with the death of Jimmy here.
Right.
And also, I've totally forgotten. I don't know if you've forgotten, but there's a whole Rosh Hashanah. It's the holy days, the Jewish holy days,
right,
which were really close to Phil, and he really brought in this whole really lovely stuff. I actually wish you had seen this stuff, because it's pretty phenomenal.
I'm so sorry.
The whole stuff about the book of life.
It's not required.
No, the book of. But I'm saying, I think you would have appreciated your work.
Not looking at some synopses, like at my, I really don't watch myself. I really have never been a fan of I just don't know how people do it. It's like, because no matter how good, I still am like, oh, here I am thinking about my next line. Oh, look, I can see in my eyes me about to make this choice that everyone said was great. Like, all I see is the freaking work I'm doing, and not like the whatever.
Got you.
So it's not a pleasurable experience for me, but I really do want to apologize, because now,
fine. Yeah,
now as I'm going through the show with you, I feel like I really am remiss in not being more.
You're great. No,
but there's some wonderful moments there. Looking at your part in pledging, because what happens is that Jenny gets you to go to temple,
right?
For Rosh Hashanah, and it's all leading up to the book of being written in the book of life. Are you Jewish, by the way?
No.
Okay, so that was you played a Jew very well.
It's a long story, but I mean, it's complicated. Okay. But no, the short answer is no.
Okay, but we kind of played this thing through, and it's actually really serious Judaism. We kind of get into the book of life, and God's going to describe who's going to live until they die. I mean, some of the lines, I mean, it's really sad. It's a sad episode. There's just no doubt that people are not crying in this episode.
And Jimmy was like a lapsed Jew, right? He wasn't. Yes. He actually sort of dragged to it, right? Yes. That was good stuff.
And I mean, at the end, we're lighting a yurtside candle and saying the prayer for the dead, which it comforts Kelly, because Brian, David, her half brother, brings her that, and is the one to comfort her.
Right.
But it's
how did you prepare for
death scene? Is great. I mean, because
I was going to ask you, how did you prepare for the death scene? Because I mean, it's one of those things you said that you didn't really had done before, right? I mean, it's a lot. It's something. It's got to be right too.
Right. Well, again, that's the kind of thing where it's like I'm gonna be really, really in tune with, and it's a duet. It's a dance for two. So it's like I wanted to have the lines down cold as always, and in my mind, it's like most death scenes and that death scenes, it's a goodbye scene. Like to really sort of encapsulate it, it's a goodbye. So like it doesn't. Those scenes happen, and it's not necessarily death, but it's like I want to be ready for like what Jenny's gonna bring, and like I don't know, because for me acting, it's like you do all this, like you think about what it is to die, what life is, how that applies specifically to the character, what is going on with the person you're doing the scene with, but then once you get into the room and you lie down in the bed, you got to just like let that all go, because like I said, that's all going to show, like when a camera is in your face, that's all going to show if you're sitting there thinking about like, oh, and this is important because when you're dying, it's like all that sort of like the science of it is you got to drop all that. And then it's just you in the room with the other person. And like, you let the script guide you.
Hmm.
So
Nice. It's beautiful stuff. It's a really nice scene. I think, like you said, Jenny, and you deliver something really special there. We've had a lot of people, write us and tell us like this is a storyline that meant a lot to them and all that stuff. Larry, how does that make you feel when you hear that?
Oh, I feel so validated that we did this thing, and and even though, like I said, at the time I took a lot of heat, I think from Fox from it, just because, but it was in general. It was a nervous time because all the actors had to sign on for another year, and they were uncertain whether to do it or not, and they only really cared about whether Jason did it, basically. So Fox was just really concerned with Jason being happy, and which that's just the business of the business. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So it's nothing really wrong with it. It's just how it was. But seeing it now, I just thought it worked great. And, I just thought, the whole Jimmy Gold thing with Michael, I mean, it's nice. You got a complete character. Everyone understood the character. We gave him great backstory with this other guy, Gordon, this other boyfriend. And we were able to really throw a lot of information in an entertaining way also that people could digest and maybe understand them and what was going on. And, not to worry, to have some respect for people with HIV or not to totally panic or, or just, make them lepers. And also how you get it. And, the doctor, we have a doctor at one point, and Phil, God bless him, we had a name for this character, and Michael being a writer and sketch, we called him Dr. Splainer. Dr. Splainer is basically, we have a scene with Dr. Splainer comes in here and basically explains everything. And so, yeah, but the actor playing it, we should look up his name because he did a great job.
No, he was great. He was a day player. He did an amazing job.
Right.
And so he basically, tells Jenny how you can get it and stuff. And that was pretty good. And pretty, again, for an 8 o'clock show to be doing that at that point in 96 was pretty cool.
Well, on behalf of myself and on behalf of the 90s, thank you for taking the risk, for doing it, because it was truly important. And it was like, I definitely learned a ton. And like, I mean, considering the walk of life that I had, and that where I lived, and like my general exposure level and IQ in regard to HIV/AIDS was fairly high compared to the average American. And so if it was important to me and I was impacted and learned a lot, I can't imagine how much others were probably like educated and enlightened by it. So like, it really, thank you, honestly, like for doing it. Like,
well, it worked out. And I give a lot of credit to Phil Savith this, because I mean, this storyline kind of came out of him, and we all got behind it. We thought we could get it by spelling, like I said, because he did a band, the band played on. But it's interesting how I thought, Jenny was particularly brave doing this storyline, and I was, we haven't had a chance to talk to her about it actually, but sometime when we talk to her soon, I'm going to mention it to her about it.
Yeah, it's really nice. After this aired, did you find anything in your career shifting to show that you can do other things outside of the character that you played on Blossom? Was it helpful?
Yeah, was it helpful?
I think I got a little bit more run in the 1 hour world. And again, everything was so different back then. And just in general, for reasons that had nothing to do with 90210 and the show, like my career was in a flux and in a process of changing anyway. And it's sort of difficult to get into at any sort of great length or depth. But and it may have been as simple as like, when you first come to town and you're 21 and you were trained in Chicago and you have a baby face and you look like you're 14 and you're reading against 14-year-old kids from Orange County who think they might want to be an actor, you're going to get a lot of work. You're going to be pretty successful. And then by this time I'm 30, and like, there's no more of sort of like walking in and really being the only one essentially who can act, reading the part. It's me and a bunch of other talented guys. So like, my career was in a slowdown, and like, there were ups and downs from that point on and going forward. But it definitely felt good to me, and it felt like I had done something like post Blossom that was like a big deal and like memorable, and like, so whether it had an impact on casting directors and my resume going forward or not, it had an impact on me. And
it's
it
amazing.
gave me confidence, like, you know what I can do. I'm no matter what's coming down the road for me, like I'm good at this. Like this is something, and I can. There's a whole store of things I am not good at. Like, and I'm a wise enough man to see that. But like this, I really am good at. Like, and I can relax about that. I don't have to worry about that. Like this is something I guess I do pretty well.
So did you watch it when it aired? You didn't watch it when it aired then, I assume. Or did you? Frog.
I mean, I would it's like you're kind of like peak. It's like, or like, cause everyone, in your world wants to see it. And in those days, it's not,
it's like everybody's watching it. There's not like what it was now where there's so many streamers. And
right. It's a la minute. It's not like, oh, we can watch it anytime. It's just it's in the cloud. Like we can just pull it up. Like, it's like you had to watch it, or did you VCR it? Like, it's
right. That wasn't a thing. Yeah.
So like, yeah. But I do remember taking a peek because again, like it was really my first work, like with this sort of like new look, as it were. So I was curious, if nothing else, to see what I looked like on camera at that, like with the short sort of Caesar cut, and that was popular, and like I was very light, like weight wise at that point. But again, my recurring sort of like this recurring syndrome is like I'll watch for a few seconds, 20 seconds. So it's like, okay, that's it. I can't. Yeah, I just caught me acting. I can't. I don't want to watch this. Enjoy it. Enjoy like whoever's in the room. Please, no, go ahead and watch. I just don't want to watch me act. It's not fun.
Michael, where were you living then? Curious.
I think I was probably back in LA at that point. That was right around the time I was going through a divorce, so there was a lot going on in my life. We are great friends now. That was more a matter of like we were not well fitted to be a husband and wife, but we are great friends, and we are to this day. I'm like godfather to every kid. So, but at the time, obviously, it was contentious and sad and like tumultuous, and so there was a lot going on in my life. But I'm pretty sure I was living in the Hollywood Hills.
Nice.
There you are.
Well, I mean, the work is great, man. Thank you for spending your time here with us. And I want to say, I can't tell you enough how many people appreciate the work that you did in this time period in the 90s in Blossom and on 90210 and all the stuff that you were doing. Me included, the work is incredible, and you gave us so many great memories growing up in the 90s and watching television, and that's where we're also connected to all of that now, and it's great to see it all coming back. And you're still working, you're in Billions, you said, right? Yeah. So it's
I am. Catch as catch can. And thank you, by the way, for those kind words. That's really amazing. It always
well earned, Michael. Well earned.
About how important, how good it felt when someone would call, and again, because and say like, this was important to me, this made an impact on me. And again, because I had played a role of one of the first characters in a sitcom on going through AA, and like
it was a big deal, man.
I got that my whole career, and it always meant something to me when someone would be like, you actually helped me a lot. Like watching you, that was formative for me. That helped me, and like it really does mean something, and I really appreciate hearing it from you today.
I'm telling you, man, like, and there's two things there. There's the AA storyline in Blossom, which is so impactful to so many people. And then there's this, which really helps not only entertain, like Larry said, but also educate people about something that they were fearful of and didn't understand fully. Right. And so it really delivers. And it's you that helps make this happen. You and Jenny Garth delivered this in a way that is so beautiful that we can all understand it. And that is the work and what you're meant to do in this world. So thank you so much for that, man.
There's one line, to show it back on the script a second, toward the end, of course, as a magician, you give her the one piece of advice, which was don't hide your heart after you do this magic trick, which is absolutely on point, stunning. I got chills from it. And I just, it all kind of works. Sometimes when the writing and the acting and the directing come together, and want to give some credit.
I'm a big believer that you're really only as good as the writing. You can't really soar too high above what's on the page. I really believe that, and that's a great example of like how solid this whole storyline was, and how grateful I am to have gotten to do it. Really, honestly.
It's a beautiful magic when it's all working together, because another actor may have interpreted it in a totally different way and really not. And we've seen that in 90210 as we've covered some of this stuff, so there is something to be said about it all working and what you brought to this. So thank you, man. I really appreciate your time here, and
stay in touch.
Yes.
I will.
And you guys, we're going to air this today, and there'll be a lot of
Wednesday.
comments. People will be really thrilled to see you. I mean,
oh, that's awesome. I appreciate being here, and good luck. I'd come back, but I feel like we covered it all.
We did kind of nail it all.
To have parties where we do pop-ins and stuff. So maybe next time we have
come to the party
or whatever, we'll have you pop in. Yeah,
You know,
that part of the fun of what we're doing.
Situation like on point before
the lapel mic will be solved. There'll be a headset.
Like NASA head.
It'll look very like Tony Robbins at a seminar.
Yeah. You know,
I don't think I can pull off Tony Robbins.
Part of the fun we've been having is just reuniting with colleagues from the past and stuff, and everyone's really enjoyed that. Just reuniting with people and comrades basically, and it's great. So, and everyone now with the time past has a chance to reflect back and be proud of what we did at that point. Exactly. And obviously the show is still watched by all around the world. Still, it's still a big it's become iconic, I guess.
Sure.
Right. And a quick tip of the hat to David Lasher, who was the common ground and put together.
He got you.
A veteran of both shows, and good on him for putting
us together. I was going to ask you about David because you were friends with David and he did Blossom.
Yes.
Did you say, hey man, I'm doing 90210? Did you guys have that conversation about you going and doing this thing?
See, again, because we were very close, but that happens when you're on that set and you're
sure
90210. We were always been friends, but 90210 happened a couple years after sort of Blossom.
The passing of the night.
Close. And a credit to the show 90210, how ubiquitous it was. Literally everyone in my age range had been on. It's like Law and Order out here in New York.
Sure,
right. New York actor, and you haven't been on Law and Order, you are doing something wrong, because 7 of them, they've done over 1,000 episodes. Compiled.
You should at least been a dead body once, right?
No, we did not have we've had a lot of great conversations, but that is not one we had, unfortunately.
That's okay. No, it's all good to go. All right, man. Thank you so much for this, and we will catch up with you, I'm sure.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care, Michael.
Later, man. Bye. That was great. Michael is so well spoken, so incredible.
He's doing Billions now. I know people love that show. I have not seen
one episode of that show.
6 episodes of Billions, so that's good. He's I didn't realize he was also a writer for Conan O'Brien and other late night shows and stuff. But no, he did spectacular work. I hope he gets to see it. It's too bad he has a rule not to look at his work.
I know that was kind of
strict. It's so
fascinating.
Strict.
Yeah. But this was great, man. I think we really covered a lot of things up front, and we got to talk to our buddy Jill Novick and Tracy, as Tracy again, and it's always good to talk to her. And now next week, man, we're gonna go and dive into
getting out in the outdoors.
It out. Yeah,
we're gonna get out and hiking. A little bit of a buddy trip, and we're gonna be doing Sweating It Out. And I know it's an episode that people really, really enjoy. It's a good bonding episode of Brandon and Dylan, who were after the same gal at that point. I think it's right after a lot of the cult stuff, isn't it?
I think it's during the cult stuff too.
Oh, it's during the cult stuff.
Did Jason direct this episode, or did I miss? Am I mistaken on that? I might be mistaken on that.
I don't know. We have to. I didn't know. I wasn't prepared. I'm not prepared. I don't think he did, because he had to do motorcycle riding. Maybe he did. He likes the challenge.
It's directed by Jason Priestley.
Yeah.
I think we talked a little bit about it when he was on with us talking about his directing. I think he mentioned that episode, I think, briefly.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive really into it this time around. And
a week from today,
I can't wait, man.
February 9th. Yeah, it should be fun. People love it.
And we're going to be live next week, so you'll all be able to ask your questions and see these two guys out in the desert. And it will be a lot of fun.
All right.
Have a good one, man.